And here we have Sherra. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good, good, good. I know this is your first live ever
It
on
is.
Instagram. So I'm honored to have you here. Um, I had the pleasure of joining your online book launch on Saturday.
I know. I was so happy to see you there, I didn't know it till the end.
Yeah, I was kind of
Thank
like,
you.
because it was quite late here in London, so I had my video off and I was just, listening and
Right,
taking it all
right, right.
in.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, Shara, I've sort of a little bit introduced you to the people who have joined us already. You are a health advocate, you're a writer, and you are passionate about showing people how to live, a healthier, more joyful lifestyle by making like little lifestyle changes and changes to the diet. So, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your food journey and how it led you to writing your book?
Sure, sure. And again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate, being here with you today. And yes, actually, my health journey started when I was in my early 30s. I started to notice some changes in my body. I'd always been pretty high energy,
Mhm.
pretty active, but I noticed that after I would eat my lunch, my fast food, I live in the South in the US, in Texas, so lots of fried chicken, French fries, barbecue is popular, but just a lot of heavy, oily, greasy foods. And my energy would just flatline like in the middle of the afternoon. I had no energy. I'd have to drag myself, through the rest of the day at work. And there were no 5 hour energy drinks back then, like we have here, now. And so I'm kind of happy there weren't, because maybe I would have just kept going in the way that I was going. But anyway, I started to pay attention to what I ate and how I felt afterwards. And I cut back little by little on the stuff that I knew wasn't good for me. Like the French fries, the, heavy, oily, stuff. And over the next 20 years, I started to eat a mostly vegetarian diet, but I still ate fish and dairy, eggs, cheese. I love cheese, I still love cheese. I just like the vegan variety, of cheese.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, but in my 50s, because I'm in my 70s now, I'm 72 now. In my 50s, my blood pressure started to creep up. And I was thinking, hey, this is not supposed to be happening, to me. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
eating pretty well. I'm eating better than, most people that I know. And I'm active. So I was just really shocked. And after the shock came, just a real feeling of failure. I felt like, what's happening? And I had to go on medication because my blood pressure, it wasn't dangerously high, but any high blood pressure is something you have to pay attention to, because it's
Yeah.
known as the silent killer, because there are often no symptoms, for it. Um, so I went on the medications, but then I started to have side effects. So the first time I noticed it, I was outside in the garden. I was doing something. I got up quickly and I felt lightheaded, like I would pass out. And so I hadn't had that happen before. So that caught my attention. But the one that really stopped me, just was the showstopper for me, when I knew I had to do more for my health other than just take medication. I was taking an elderly friend to lunch, and it was close to our house. We got on the freeway. We were laughing, we were talking, having a good time. And all of a sudden, I started to fade. I started to feel like I was going to black out. And I was, really terrified. And so all I could do was try to hide that from her,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to frighten her. And I could only think, how can I get off this freeway? Let me get off this freeway, please. And so I gripped the steering wheel so tight, trying to just maintain my focus. And I was able to exit, to get off. As soon as we got off, the feeling just passed. I mean, as soon as we got on the surface road, it's like it never happened. It was so quick, but so strong.
Yeah.
So wasn't going to get back on the freeway, obviously. So went and had lunch. We had a nice lunch, but that scared me so much to think what could have happened that
Mm,
I knew right then that, you know, I've got to do more for myself. I can't just think that I can take medication all my life the way my parents did. Both of my parents were on high blood pressure medication for as long as I could remember. So that
yeah.
incident got my attention.
Wow. I mean, what a wake-up call, I have to say. And I can only imagine just how scary that experience must have been for you.
I had
Wow.
never had anything like that happen before, and nor have I had anything like that happen since. So I think maybe it was a good thing that it happened and that my reaction, I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah, and you took action, because I read this bit of the story in your book as well. By the way, I read your book in a day. Like, it was unbelievable. I started in the morning and I just, as soon as I picked it up, I couldn't put it down because even though a lot of what you share in the book are things I'm familiar with, having been vegan for a while now, but it was
Right.
just such a good reminder. And the way you write is with so much compassion, so much
Oh, thank
light
you.
just
Thank
coming
you so
out of the
much.
pages. And
Yeah.
I couldn't help thinking as well that this would be the perfect book for me to share with, my relatives, like my aunties, my uncles, my
Right.
grandparents. This is the
Right.
kind of book that I would want them to read. And
Yeah.
so, going back to your story then, so you had this sort of big wake up call and you thought to yourself, something has to change. So, what were those changes that you made?
Well, you know what? I was very fortunate to get referred to a cardiologist who happened to be African American and vegan.
Yeah.
And the person who referred me to him, a local one here in Houston, who just happened to be, you know, pretty well known in the US anyway for plant-based therapies in addition to traditional cardiology practice. And he
Okay.
tries to help patients get off, either get off their meds, but certainly to reduce their dependency on them with nutritional intervention. So I was very fortunate to get referred to him, and I had been reading and studying a lot about food and lifestyle, which had
Yeah.
led to the vegetarian part of my journey, but I had not taken that step to eliminate all animal products. And that was the difference in my heart health and what I had to do to actually not only reduce the medication, but get off them totally.
Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Um,
Well, I
so,
wish I thought of it, but it was, you know, I was lucky that there's this saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I think
yeah.
that's what happened because he not only ended up being my cardiologist during that period, but a mentor as well. And he even wrote a very nice blurb for my book.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love it when those sort of moments in life happen. Just a bit of
Right,
serendipity when, you know, things align and it just kind of works out the way it's supposed to work out.
right,
So I'm glad you
exactly.
had that meeting and that encounter.
Right.
Um, this would be a good time to bring in a question I had from someone who couldn't make it to the live, but they were really excited that you were going to be talking on this subject.
Okay.
And so he has a question. I'm just going to read it out to you, and then we can take it from there. Sound good?
Yes, sounds great.
Brilliant. Okay, so he says he's a 39-year-old black man. He recently went for an echocardiogram due to like a funky EKG reading.
Uh,
He says he has a history of heart disease on his father's side of the family. So his question is, what can I do preventatively to keep my heart healthy? So what sort of tips would you have for people who are, really adamant and really want to make, lifestyle changes for themselves, for their heart health?
Right. So the first thing I would say for anyone who already has cardiovascular disease or any kind of heart condition and you're under the care of a physician, you'll want to make sure that you have the conversation with them before you make any changes, because food is powerful and it can do wonderful things for you. And if you're on medication, it can make the medication more effective than it needs to be, or it could lessen the effect of the medication. So, first of all, more and more physicians are starting to recognize the importance of nutrition and diet and food, and particularly plant-based
Yeah.
foods, to actually reverse, in many cases, heart disease, even when there are pretty advanced conditions. So the first thing would be check with your doctor, make sure he knows what you are doing, and stay in touch with him, so that when the food effect starts to really help the condition, the doctor can monitor the medications and probably reduce them if needed. The other thing I would say is just what you know, and many of our listeners know, is that plant-based nutrition really is the most powerful medicine. And it's really the only cure for heart disease or diabetes, or, even things like Alzheimer's and some common cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer. So it's really the food. And so the main thing is just to make sure that we eat really little to no meat or dairy. Dairy is just as problematic as meat. I know some Rip Esselstyn, who has a podcast, calls milk liquid meat. So it's not better. So yeah, just eat a high plant-based diet. There are many herbs and spices that also help. I like to have a fruit breakfast with whatever fresh fruits are available. It's colorful, just whatever I have in my fridge. I make a big plate of it, because when you eat plant-based, you can eat a lot, and I love to eat.
Yeah.
So I will have a lot of fruits, but even on my cereal, I put cinnamon. Cinnamon actually helps lower blood pressure. And if you like spicy foods, cayenne pepper is really good to lower blood pressure. And these are also spices that help your immune system. So basically, there's many tips in the book about foods that taste really good, or spices that really enhance the taste of your food. But they're also having the effect at the same time of helping, your arteries stay healthy.
Yeah.
Certainly, I would really advise him to try to eliminate oils. We need fat, but we need healthy fat. And the healthy fat is the fat that comes in the food by eating the whole food. Like, instead of avocado oil, which is not so healthy, eat the whole avocado. Instead of coconut oil, eat the whole
Yeah.
coconut. So walnuts are a great source of fats. But for people with high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, there's no such thing as a healthy oil. There are only less
Interesting.
healthy, yeah, there are only less unhealthy oils.
Yeah.
So, for example, olive oil is what a lot of people default to, and that is one of the less unhealthy oils. But if you're really concerned with your heart health, your cardiovascular health, programs like in the U.S., Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Dean Ornish, for 40 years, they've been pioneering and having success with patients, but it's typically oil-free. It's meat and dairy-free. It's high in fiber, which means high in vegetables, fruits, grains, seeds, nuts, legumes, all the good stuff that comes out of the ground. And the thing that I would add is make it delicious, because for too long, meat has been the center of our plates. We have to flip that and make the vegetables the main attraction, and make them really good, because you should not give up taste. You should not give up enjoyment. Food is meant to be enjoyed and to keep us healthy.
Oh, yeah. I hear you on that. I hear you on that. Well, thank you so much for sharing those amazing tips, and for, so generously, giving us all that wonderful information. One of the questions that came up in the chat right now is, what oil do you suggest one cooks with? And if I hear what you're saying correctly, it's choose the whole food instead of
Yes.
the refined processed oil. So instead
Yeah.
of the avocado oil, go for the avocado. Instead of the coconut
Yes.
oil, go for the
Yes.
coconut. I love that.
Right. That's absolutely correct. That's
Yeah.
and it's I have had to learn how to cook oil free. And you'd be surprised what happens. Our body is so amazing that once we make a healthy change, what it does is it adjusts, our palate begins to adjust. And it
Yeah.
only takes, a month or so before you won't even want the oily stuff anymore. But there
Mm-hmm.
is a process of learning how to, and there's a lot of information online. Oil free is becoming very popular because of this reason.
Yeah.
And also, when you go oil free, because fat is such concentrated calories, it's so calorie dense. The weight just kind of takes care of itself. You really don't have to worry so much about the weight. That's why I don't really talk about weight,
Yeah.
because people can be thin and unhealthy, people can be larger and healthy. I think the thing that we have to remember is just pay attention to our bodies, take care of ourselves, eat plants, all varieties. The more varieties, the better. The better you can make them suit your cultural food tradition. That's a good way because we never have to give up our food traditions, our culture.
I
And
hear you on
so
that.
we,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, so we don't want to sacrifice taste at all. My message is go for it all. You want the
Yes.
health, you want the taste, you want the enjoyment, you want the feeling good of being compassionate to other animals on the planet, and
Yeah.
also just a diet that really helps the planet become more sustainable because we're having issues, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
with global change, which a meat-based diet, typically a Western diet, really makes that problem worse because 83% of the farmland globally, according to the UN, is used for animal feeding while people go hungry. It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't
And
make sense.
the animals that we eat are not helping our health either. So it's something to really be thoughtful about. And I think that younger people, it's really important, even though younger people may not have the health issues. We're all concerned about our climate change. We're all concerned about food justice, making sure that everybody can eat healthy food. And
Mm-hmm.
so these are really important issues, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah, totally. And just to say as well that that message of abundance over restriction is one that really comes through in your book, which I love. I'm all about that. And I also like the fact that you mentioned that we don't have to give up on any of our sort of cultural foods, the foods that we grew up with,
No.
foods that we
Mm-hmm.
love, the foods that have significant meaning for us. All we need to do is to make little tweaks and changes here and there. And
That's
I
it.
know that you actually have a bit of a connection to West Africa through your husband,
Yes.
Abe, who is
Yes.
Senegalese.
Yes.
And
True.
the other great thing about your book is that you also include some recipes as well for people to try. So, can you talk to us about the Senegalese dish that you were able to veganize?
There are a couple. Um, the
Yeah.
the simplest one, because the one thing I will say about Senegalese cuisine, it is intricate. It's not always simple, but the flavors are
Yeah.
just so wonderful. I mean, I will never forget the first time I ate it at my mother-in-law's house. I mean, it was just everything was good. Even the rice is flavorful. You could just eat the rice by itself, and it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
But the flavor comes from the spices, and the vegetables, because if you think about it, if you just boil a fish and you don't put any spice on it, that's not too good. It doesn't taste too good.
Yeah.
So the spices are what makes everything good. So I have one that's called supacandia, and really here in the US we call it gumbo. So
Mm-hmm.
basically it's a vegetable stew, and traditionally, it would have fish and mollusks in it in Senegal. So I just remove the fish and the mollusks, but I put all of the spices in so that you get the same flavor. And then I put some things in there. Sometimes I try it with a plant-based meat like seitan. The thing
Okay.
is, if you do use that, you'll want to put it in at the end because if you put it in and let it cook with the vegetables, it becomes bland because all the flavor seeps into the actual gumbo or the actual soup. It makes the soup taste better, but if you wait and put it in the end, then it still adds really to the dish. So it's in the book. The recipe's in the book, but it has all the vegetables, all the spices. It's just without the fish.
And I'm looking forward to trying it out. I'm really sort of
I hope
curious.
you like it. I love it. I hope you like it. If
Yeah.
my husband loves it, I think it's pretty good because he's pretty picky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's pretty picky.
And
He's go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. You go.
No, I was just going to say that I know, though, sometimes when he goes back home, it's so tempting to go ahead and have the fish. And I know he does that sometimes. And I think we have to let people take their own, path and their own timing
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that actually leads really well into my next question, which was, about your family, because I know you've got two lovely daughters, Tembi and
Mhm.
Attica, and you've got granddaughters as well. So what has this been like for them? You've sort of gone on this food journey. You've completely, made the switch to a plant-based diet. How have they found it? Are they also sort of inspired to embrace this lifestyle?
Well, they actually live in California, my daughters and granddaughters, and the
Mhm.
culture there is pretty pro plant-based
Yeah.
compared to many areas of the country. So that made it easier, for me. And I've actually learned a lot from them. One of my daughters has been vegetarian for many, many years.
Mhm.
And she is now beginning to eliminate the remaining animal products, many of them. One of my granddaughters has been mostly vegan now for about a year. The other is mostly vegetarian. So they share recipes, and actually, I've got two recipes that they help me test, and they're named
Yeah.
after them in the book. So there's Clara's cornbread.
Uh-huh.
Cornbread is a traditional Southern U.S. Southern staple that we all grew up with, and so we just made it vegan by taking out the dairy and the eggs, and I use actually
Yeah.
almond butter and some
Right.
applesauce, and it gives it
Yeah, I
that little
noticed
sweet
that. Yeah.
finish. And oh my God, I love that cornbread. It took me about 2 years to make that recipe right, to get
Hmm.
it to where I really, thought, wow, this is good. So that's named after one granddaughter, and then there's a dessert named after the other, Zoella's apple crisp and
Hmm.
Clara's cornbread. Those are my two granddaughters.
Love it. That's so good. I love the family involvement there. It's a great way
Yeah.
to kind of get everyone involved as well. So thank you so
Hmm.
much for sharing that. So I guess finally, what else can people expect from the book? Because from when I read it, I got the sense it was definitely more than just an informative book about diet, but it was also about mindfulness and also about joy and all these
Yeah.
um, amazing ingredients that make life enjoyable and worth
Right.
living. So, yeah, just a few final words on, what people can expect from your book, where they can find it, and how they can support you.
Sure. Sure. Well, thank you. And yes, I wanted the title to reflect, kind of my attitude toward this journey, one of joy, one of adventure, one of exploration, one of testing what's possible. Not, I just couldn't accept that the only way to be healthy would be to deprive myself of the
Mm-hmm.
pleasure of food. And that was kind of my guiding light, and it still is, because that's just not necessary. And the one thing I would say is that the other thing I think you can expect, and it was something I struggled with in writing the book, is the whole spiritual aspect of connecting back to the earth, because the earth actually provides exactly what we need, exactly the way we need it, for
Yeah.
our health, the whole foods, the plant-based foods. And of course, we enhance that with our spices and our cooking methods, and that makes it even more glorious. But the point is just to get back to basics, the way that our ancestors ate. Meat was not a staple. People had meat, on rare occasions. They had meat, for example, here in the South when they would slaughter, you know, on the farm an animal. But that didn't happen every day. And the Western diet is basically so centered around meat that people expected it every meal. And
Yeah.
that's why our health has deteriorated. But getting back to our culture, our original culture of eating more plant-based foods, being closer to the land, being more connected to the seasons, and just the beauty of nature and the abundance that nature represents is the other
Mhm.
message that I think is where my joy comes from.
Yeah. Ah, ah, such golden nuggets. I love it.
Well,
Well,
so
yeah. So thank you, Sherra, for joining me on this live, and thank you to everyone as well who tuned in. I would encourage all of you to go and check out Sherra's page, check out her book, buy it for yourself, for your mom, for your dad, for your aunties and uncles, and
yes,
yeah, let's get the message out there that you can live an abundant, wonderful life. Just making little changes, lifestyle changes to
right.
enhance your health. So thank you again, Sherra, for joining me.
You are so welcome. And the book is pretty much available for order online, Amazon, local booksellers. So it should not be difficult to find.
Yeah, for sure. All right. People are saying thank you in the chat as well. Thank you, guys, for
Oh,
joining
great, great.
us.
Thank you
Nice.
so much.
Thank you, Sherra. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too. And thanks to everybody. Happy to join you today.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right, bye bye.